Hey everybody, Jim Perry from Reach here. So Bentley and I are out for a little walk this morning out at Bear Cave Park. It's going to be a very hot day today on a dangerously high heat index, so we're out a bit early. So last night I had Taekwondo class and I worked with 3 newer students, and one of them was just fine. He had no issues trying new skills and jumped into it and was absolutely fine with that. But there were 2 others who were afraid of failure. They feared failure, and every time I had them try something new, it's not that they couldn't do it, but they second guessed themselves and were really hesitant and constantly asking questions about were they doing it the right way, and were really more afraid of doing this the wrong way. And that fear of failure was holding them back. So I did my best to encourage them, let them know it would be fine, and there really was no failure as a brand new student, especially just opportunities for growth and for learning. So a long time ago, not so long ago, my daughter showed up for her second test at the Martial Arts Fitness Center and did great on her first test. And 3 months later, got to the studio and was clearly ready to test, but got out on the floor, was warming up before the test started, and all the students were called to the center of the floor to begin the test, and my daughter froze. She stepped off the floor and came over to my wife Melanie and me in a panic, and I told her, "You need to get back out on the floor. Your test starts now." And she's like, "No, I can't do this. I can't do this." She let her fear of failure paralyze her that evening. And there was nothing that I was going to be able to do as her dad to get her back out there. So tried a little kind love, a little tough love, and nothing was happening. So Mr. Gommels came over, the instructor and owner of the Martial Arts Fitness Center, came over and asked if she was okay and asked her what was wrong. And she melted in his arms, crying because of her fear of failure paralyzing her that evening. So he took her out on the floor, sat her down with the other younger students, and taught them all how to count to 10 in Korean and how to say hello and goodbye and thank you. And in the next 5 minutes, her fear of failure disappeared. His kindness and compassion and understanding and patience allowed her to move past that fear of failure and to be comfortable and ready to test. He saw that and he knew exactly what to do to get her to that position. When I was in school, especially high school, somewhat middle school, but especially high school, my fear of failure was a fear of not necessarily being good enough or learning something new or not being able to test well enough, like in the martial arts examples, but my fear of failure was of being judged, of not being good enough, of being made fun of by my classmates. Completely unfounded fears, but there were many days that those fears paralyzed me as well. I had one year in college especially that I feared failure, and there it wasn't that I didn't feel like I belonged or fit in or I'd be made fun of, but I truly feared failure, that I wouldn't succeed, that I wouldn't pass my classes, that I wouldn't be good enough. So the thing is, our fear of failure sometimes is brought on by a fear of the unknown, of not knowing what's coming next. Sometimes it's a fear of the struggle that we sometimes have to experience in order to have personal growth. Sometimes that fear of failure paralyzes us, but we have to be able to move past it. Sometimes that fear of failure is that fear of we're not going to be good enough. We are going to be judged and we're not going to pass, or we're not going to meet our expectations or the expectations that others have set for us. And sometimes those expectations are unrealistic, by the way. So what do we do about it? Well, one thing that I try to do either on paper or in my head when I'm fearing failure is I try to list all of the pros and cons of going ahead with whatever it is that I was going to try to do that I'm fearing failure in. And if you do that, I think you'll find out that the pros of attempting that personal growth far outweigh the cons. And sometimes, especially when it's written, you'll realize that those fears might be completely unfounded, and they might seem so minimal that you're really not worried about them anymore. And when you list out those, you see that struggle is really just an opportunity for growth. You see, there really is no failure if you make an attempt. The only guaranteed failure is not even trying. You don't try, you are guaranteed to fail. I don't see failure in most cases is failure. I see it as an opportunity to go back and to try to do better another time. And that's where true personal growth happens. We talked about growth in one of my other videos. You can't move on to true personal growth unless you move past that fear of failure. It's not possible. You can be physically ready to do something, mentally ready to do it, to test, but if that fear of failure is paralyzing you, you're not going to be able to move on to true personal growth. My challenge for you today, consider in your life, where are your fears of failure? Where are they getting in your way for personal growth? And what can you do about that? Go ahead, list them out. List out the pros and the cons of attempting whatever task that is. It could be physical, it could be mental, it could be a relationship, it could be work, it could be stuff at home or with friends. Take a look at what are the pros and cons. And if that fear of failure is paralyzing you, go ahead and jump in. Don't see it as failure. See it as struggle. See it as an opportunity for personal growth. Some of the biggest growth that we can have happens when not only we fail and we go ahead and try again, but the very largest personal growth happens when we move past that fear of failure. Struggle's good. Opportunity for growth is good, but especially if you have that fear of failure to a point where you think you can't do it and you move past that. That's where real, true, huge personal growth happens. Just something for you to consider today. I wish you well. Talk to you soon.